to you live
from News 306. My name's Gilbert.
and my name's Albert.
And today we have two very special news segments for you.
These news segments are coming from two of our most renowned journalists.
The views skyrocket when these two ladies come on screen.
They go through the roof.
The people can't get enough of them. So we're starting off with Nikeata Schuler, and she'll be talking about the lack of diversity in the ballet industry.
Next, it will be followed by Emma Miller with her critique of a dance performance from Loyola University.
Cutting to you now, Nikeata. What do you have for us?
Thank you, Gilly. I'm coming to you live with a story about dance. And some of you may be thinking that there's not many issues that could be going on in the dance world, except for their hard standards that they have to live by. But I'm here to tell you that there are social issues that are present in this culture. And this one includes specifically tonight the topic of colonized minds within dance and how this impacts their community as a whole, as well as the issue of lack of diversity in apparel and how this impacts dancers of color. So we'll begin tonight by talking about Sarah Crowell, who is a choreographer and director at Destiny Art Center, and she was a former professional dancer herself, which means she really has a look into what this community looks like behind the scenes. So a main quote that we'll be looking at is that you have to accept that everything you understand about the human experience was taught to you from a white supremacist, capitalistic, patriarchal frame of thinking. So this means that our minds have already been colonized from the start, and we have to look at how we can deconstruct this through our thought now instead of just being ignorant and ignoring that this has been a factor through all of our thoughts. So she works at particularly the way of beauty and how this is looked at and how it's coming from a white man's perspective to begin with, which is why mainly these women were slender, super thin, and usually white in the time. Now, of course, we've expanded a little bit past that, but that has not completely been disfigured, as she accounts for her own story where she returned home one day and told her mother that she wanted a breast reduction because she felt that this would make her fit the standards of dance and be a better dancer. Her mother asked her why she would ever want to change what God had given her, and made her realize that she should not want to change her body for the environment that she is in, but instead change the environment that she is in to fit her body. And this is really impactful because we should know that we shouldn't have to conform to the standards that society has set if they're not even right to begin with. Now we'll talk about Ashwanti Sakina Ford, who is the co-founder of the Black Ensemble Players, and the purpose of this is to put Black bodies on the stage to tell classical stories, as they had been excluded from this in the past because of their skin tone and the way that they look. She tells of changing the dialect, and her specific point in the article that I'm going to be discussing is about changing the way that we speak during dance, just to make it more inclusive and bringing up less quotes that will cause generational trauma. Some examples of the phrases that she has are cracking the whip 'em into shape, let's have a powwow, hang the blacks, slaving away. Now, for me personally, I know that a lot of people just say these on the daily as well, but she believes that these things can be changed in minor ways so that there will not be those generational trauma issues with the specific people who it bothers. This includes Blacks, Natives, and many others. Specifically for hang the blacks, which is a common phrase used when they want to hang the black curtains in dance, she believes that there is not much more trouble to add one more curtain word after that. On to a current issue, we have a TikToker, Misty Copeland, who is a part of the American Ballet Theater, and she actually came to me on my For You page and talked about how she spends hours and hours pancaking, as it is called, her point shoes with foundation so that they will be the same color as her skin tone, because mostly point shoes are only made as pink to be the extension of a white person's leg, to elongate this and to make this more elegant so it once again fits those standards that have been set in the past by white men. Her main issue is that she believes they should have more variety in the apple emoji, which is what she has started a petition for, because there is only pink ballet shoes in these emojis. She talks about how she has ruined countless furniture, clothes, bedding, all this type of stuff while spending many more hours and much more time than her white counterparts because she has to cover these shoes in foundation. This is also extended by the fact of Pitzer's Ballet Theater, which stated that one performer can go through one pointe shoe per performance, or this accounts to about 100 or 120 pairs of pointe shoes throughout an entire season, which are about $80 per shoe, which just shows that on top of these already incredibly steep prices that they are paying for these shoes, they're also darker skin tone dancers are having to spend money on foundation and spend that extra time, which is just creating extra difficulty for them to survive in this world that they are already fighting the odds to be in. Now, with all these negativities, I don't want to make it seem like it's all bad because there has been movements and petitions and different organizations who have tried to change this culture and this a part of apparel. So looking into the National Association of Blacks in Dance, they provide many links to different organizations who have ways to get apparel that is not just pink skin tone. And this includes Aurora Tights, Ballet Cafe Naturals, Blends Apparel, Flesh Tone, and many others. This helps to show that women are able to get these apparels now and they don't need to do them all by themselves, but it's still not a standard practice and should be brought to attention more. That's all I have for you tonight. Thank you very much. And now you'll head over to Emma Miller, which she will share you a story about the dance that was performed at Loyola University.
Late in the evening of November 16th, Loyola University Chicago held a main stage dance performance called Excavating Hope.
I will be doing a critique on the main stage dance performance, Excavating Hope from Loyola University. The main stage dance performance was split into 5 main dances, 2 before the intermission and 3 after. Let's dive into the first dance, Visions of Hope and Journeys of Healing. The first thing that struck me about this dance piece was the costumes that they were wearing. There was so many different colors, forming a beautiful rainbow. They also included the 4 different elements, earth, wind, fire, and water within their dance. I saw many elements of my Modern 1 class in this dance through the rise and fall technique. There was intense changes of tempo throughout the entire dance. It went from slow to incredibly fast, and then from fast back to slow again. There were many emotions that I went through while watching this dance. Joy, carefree, rising from the ashes despite all odds. Childhood nostalgia, especially within the childhood games that they played, like hopscotch and rock, paper, scissors. It's a beautiful story of the evolution of life, from the starting of life in the womb, throughout childhood, into the teen years, and finally into adulthood. The journeys of healing that you have to go through. In elementary school when you're picked on and bullied, rising from the ashes despite all odds, and finally overcoming all of your fears and joining into friend groups. At the end of it all, I thoroughly enjoyed this dance. Now on to our second dance, Unstrung, my favorite of the night by far. It had a slight country twang to it and many elements of line dancing. I found it sort of ironic how they called it unstrung, but mainly played string music in the background. I found the main girl to be incredibly amazing. When the instructor first introduced the dance, she said that it was about anxiety, and I clearly recognized this right away. In the beginning, the main girl seemed like she was held back by her fears, by her obligations, by her own self-thoughts. However, throughout the dance, I saw her begin to become herself, to let go, to let loose, to break free from everything that was holding her back. After the brief intermission, we dove into the third dance, a ballet, Tutu in Leo. Throughout the entire dance, I couldn't help but not take my eyes off of their feet. I was amazed by how precise their footwork was. The entire dance was rooted around the center of teaching. A teacher was the main girl, with all of her students following suit. When the dance first began, the teacher was the only one dressed in the actual ballet clothing. The girls soon followed suit as the teacher began to hand out the pointe shoes on stage. It was a funny little excerpt on learning on how to do ballet and how to do pointe. As you could see all of the students wobbling and falling over, helping each other to stand up and finally learn the footwork. At the end, they all joined in together in a beautiful dance. Within this, I found that the use of the costume as a tool in the dance was incredibly fun to watch and very brilliant. Throughout the dance, I couldn't help but think of the quote, "To be a woman is to perform." Throughout the entire thing, they all had on fake smiles, as if someone was forcing them to do so, which I know is a big part of ballet, is looking perfect, looking elegant, and looking proper at all times. In the end, I found that the dance perfectly went with the theme, excavating hope, as it was important for the students to find at how, although they may be unsure and weary of the dance at first, and how they're doing and how they're failing and how they're falling, that there's always a way for them to rise back up. Our fourth piece is titled Chimera 2. I believe it was a jazz dance, as there were elements of piano playing in the background the entire time, and the way they moved truly reminded me of a jazz piece. They all had matching outfits, slick back ponytails, completely sleek black outfits from head to toe. Throughout the entire piece, I noticed that breathing was a main part of it. You could see as they inhaled and see as they exhaled. It truly made their movement more cohesive. They tended to move in a canon-like fashion. The dance itself was incredibly serious. I couldn't help but not take my eyes off of the dancers the entire time. The mood was weary, dreary, very sad, and sort of startling at times. As for the theme of excavating hope, I feel like it really brings you down to the bottom, to rock bottom, one would say. The mood is so dreary, so startling. You feel like you're gasping for air the entire performance, wondering when they're finally going to come back up again, wondering when the mood is finally going to change to happiness. Although it wasn't my favorite piece of the night, I do believe that it was very well done, and the dancers did an excellent job of moving together cohesively and truly making the piece come alive. For our last and final piece, we have the tale of Jonathan Livingston Seagull. This piece reminded me of the saying, "Birds of a feather stick together," because throughout the entire piece, there was one seagull who seemed to kind of venture off on his own, fall and get hurt, get stuck in some weird places. And he finally was able to rise back up when his friends came back to get him, and they all were able to rise together. You could truly see the emotions of the birds, or dancers, within this dance. In the beginning, they all acted as seagulls, pecking at the ground, cawing at each other. It was very fun. As for the seagull, Jonathan Livingston, who went out on his own, you could totally see elements of curiosity and the investigative nature that birds tend to have. And the dancer did an incredible job at showing that through their facial expression. This dance connects to the theme of excavating hope, because the one seagull thought that he was finally done, finally dead, left behind by all of the others when he went off on his own. But there was still a light at the end of the tunnel. He was able to rejoin with his community, and they all brought each other back up together. All in all, I found this dance performance to be incredibly fun. The theme excavating hope is so perfect, and I felt that all of the dances perfectly fit into that theme. As I said, my favorite of the night was Unstrung because of its upbeatness, and all of the dancers just seemed so into it. I love their facial expressions. I thought it was so fun to watch, incredibly engaging. And to be controversial, my least favorite dance of the night was Chimera 2. Although I truly saw all of the emotion on the dancers' faces, and I do think that they did a good job with it, I just don't think that the dance truly resonated with me at all, and I found it sort of boring to watch. Now for the real question. Should our viewers go out and buy a ticket themselves? Was the dance good enough? In my personal, professional, journalistic opinion, I think yes. Go see this dance if you can and if you're able to. If you like to go see dance performances and truly think it's fun, I think this one is definitely one to see. I think all of the dancers have a true passion for dance, and you can tell it. I do think that the theme was well done, and I think that all of the dances went along perfectly with it. And if you're into watching dance, buy a ticket. Go see it now. That's all I have for you now. Back to the station.
Thank you so incredibly much, Emma. Your dance critique was definitely needed and incredibly well done. That's all we have for you tonight, folks, on News 306. Remember to tune in tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central Time.